Good day to my grade 9 students. Welcome to our English class. We are already on the 7th week of quarter 3 and I hope you have with you the copy of our Leap Week 7. This week we will be discussing judging the validity of the evidence listened to. So that is the most essential learning competency number 8. Our enabling competency is to recognize faulty logic, unsupported facts, and emotional appeal. So our work plan for today is first, we will be having the introduction. Second, we'll be having the development. We'll be answering the learning tasks. Third is the assimilation, where we will be discussing the key points. And lastly, the assessment. So for your introduction, let me read. In everything you do and say, you have to be wise. You should choose whether it is something to believe or not. In this kind of situation, your critical thinking will really be tested as you determine the worth of every idea or argument being said and heard. Now, let's start. Read the following bubble thoughts. Each presents one's ideas for argument. Then we will be answering the question that follows. Let me read the first one. My friend Alisa didn't attend Ella's party last night. She doesn't really like Ella. Next one. Watch this movie. For sure you will like it the way I do. And the last one, my teacher accepted my output even if it's already a week late. She is the most considerate teacher in school. Now let's try to answer the questions that are given. Now these are the questions to think about. Number 1. In which statement or claim are you most convinced? While answering that question, we can say that all the statements aren't convincing. Now let's proceed to number 2. What makes the statement convincing? If not, what's wrong with it? So let's try to identify what's wrong with the statements. For the first one, my friend Alyssa didn't attend Ella's party last night. She doesn't really like Ella. If you can look at the cause, which is she doesn't really like Ella, and the effect, she didn't attend Ella's party last night, there might be some fault in it. There could be other reasons why Alyssa didn't attend Ella's party. Maybe she likes Ella in a way, but she has other excuses. Number 2. Watch this movie, for sure you will like it the way I do. What's wrong with that? It doesn't mean that if our friend likes a movie, a song, a TV series, we will love it equally as they do. We have different preferences, which makes number 2 not convincing as well. Let's proceed to number 3. My teacher accepted my output even if it's already a week late. She's the most considerate teacher in school. It doesn't mean that if our teacher accepted the output, she is actually considerate. And the term most considerate teacher in school makes it wrong. Maybe there is another teacher who is more considerate than this teacher that the students is referring to. So, meaning to say the word most makes the statement wrong because there are no other evidences that says she is the most considerate among all teachers in the school. Now, why are the statements not that convincing? It's because there are fallacies in them. Fallacies are common errors in reasoning that will weaken the logic of your argument. It is a mistaken belief, especially one based on unsound argument. Now, let's proceed to the 3 types of fallacy. There are three types, and the first one is faulty logic, the next one is unsupported fact, and the third is emotional appeal. Now let's try to discuss the first type of fallacy through examples. I will be reading the examples and let's try to identify what is wrong with their reasons. The first one is I am singing aloud and it rains hard. The next one, all flight attendants are tall. Mika is a flight attendant, therefore she is tall. And last one, all floods are caused by the typhoon. If we will take a look at each statement, we can find something wrong with it. First, it doesn't mean that if you don't have a good voice, it will rain after you sing. The next one, it doesn't mean that if all flight attendants are tall, Mika, a flight attendant, is also tall. And the last one, there are other causes why flood happens. It's not just through storms or typhoon, it could be because of pollution. So now what's wrong with it? There are wrong or questionable reasons in the statement. There is an imperfect reason. Now, the type of logic used here is actually called faulty logic. Faulty logic is a kind of persuasive technique used when making statements with imperfect reasoning or in the absence of sound judgment. When we are giving statements, we should make sure that our reasoning is correct. There is no fault in it. Let's proceed to the next type of fallacy. Here are the examples. Oslo is the most amazing place in Cebu. And the second one is I am beautiful. What's wrong with the reasons here? Yes, that's correct. The mistake is that there are no reasons at all. There are no evidences at all. They may be facts, yes, but they lack evidences. And the second one is called unsupported fact. Why is it called unsupported fact? Because it is not upheld by evidence or facts making the claim unsubstantiated or unconfirmed. So there are no evidences to prove that based on the statement. Now let's proceed to the next one, the final one. I failed my exam because my aunt passed away and I couldn't focus on my lessons. He forgot his wallet because he needed to go to the hospital immediately from his wife. Now what is wrong with its reason? First is that the speaker, the person saying this, is trying to make us believe him or her by touching our feelings and emotions. Okay, it's trying to get an emotional reaction from us in order for us to believe. Now, what is this called? It's called emotional appeal. Emotional appeal is a method of persuasion appealing to both the brain and the heart, primarily tending to obtain an emotional reaction. So sometimes the people we listen to tries to convince us, but by making us pity them, by making us react to situations. Now, let's try to identify whether the statement I will tell you is faulty logic, unsupported fact, and emotional appeal. Let's have the first one. Mayon volcano is the most beautiful volcano in the Philippines. Now, this statement is actually an unsupported fact. Why is it? Because there's not enough evidence stated to prove that Mayon volcano is actually the most beautiful volcano in the Philippines. Let's go to the next one. You are beautiful even without your makeup because you have fair skin. Now this one is actually faulty logic. Why is it faulty logic? Because the reason stated here is you have fair skin, that's why you're beautiful. But there are other reasons why a person can be beautiful, or there are people um, with not that fair skin who are still beautiful, or there are people with fair skin who aren't that beautiful. So it makes the logic or the reasoning faulty. Let's proceed to the last one. I parked the car not knowing it was a throwaway zone because my baby was crying hard in the back seat. This one shows an emotional appeal, and there is this certain phrase in the statement that makes it emotional appealing, which is my baby was crying hard. Now let's proceed to the answering of the learning. Now let us proceed to the first learning task. Our task is to identify the types of policy, whether it's faulty logic, unsupported fact, or emotional appeal. So there will be company taglines, and we have to identify what type of fallacy is seen or said in their taglines. Let's have the first one. Super asim talaga by Dato Puti. This one is not supported by evidences. How can we say that Dato Puti is really extremely sour, which makes this an unsupported fact? Let's proceed to the next one. Tides in, thirds out by tide. So this one is having fault or imperfect logic. The cause of why dirts go out according to the tagline is because tide comes in. But there are several reasons why we can remove dirt, like scrubbing, uh, by soaking it, and the like. So it doesn't mean that if you put Tide in it right away, the dirt will come out. So therefore, this is faulty logic. Let's proceed to the next one. You're not you when you're hungry by Snickers. Now there's also imperfect reasoning here or unsound judgment. There are several reasons why you don't become you, like because you are angry, because you are sad, because you are emotionally not feeling well. So it doesn't mean that when you're hungry you don't become you. So there is an imperfect reasoning here, which makes it a faulty logic. Let's proceed to next one. So the tagline is things go better with Coke. So this statement does not show a verifiable truth. Like, what is the fact that is supporting the statement that things really go better with Coke? So there's not enough evidence, which makes this an unsupported fact. Next one, masarap kahit walang sauce by Chooks to go. Now, this statement shows an imperfect reason or unsound judgment, which makes it faulty logic. Next, a bank with the heart for every Filipino by Veterans Bank. Now, this tagline is designed to create an emotional response with the line a bank with the heart, the word the heart. So therefore, this is emotional appeal. Next, wala pa ring tatalo sa Alaska. So this doesn't have a support, doesn't have enough evidence why Alaska is number one. So therefore, this is unsupported fact. Let's proceed to the next. There are some things money can't buy. For everything else, there's MasterCard by MasterCard. Now, there is an imperfect reason or unsound judgment here. There are other means in order for us to purchase things, like we could pay through cash, or we could pay through other means like banks or loans. So there are other ways to do it. Using MasterCard is not the only solution. So therefore, this is faulty logic. Now, we're done with the first task. Let's proceed to learning task 2. Let us test your critical thinking skills in determining the worth of ideas. Read the following statements. On the table below, check the box opposite to each statement to identify whether it is faulty logic, unsupported facts, or emotional appeal. So here is our table. So we have to check whether it's faulty logic, unsupported fact, and emotional appeal. The first one says, I argued with Mrs. Bam before I turned in my homework, so I got a bad grade on my paper. This one shows faulty logic. Why is it faulty logic? There might be some other reasons why the person got a bad grade. So he or she is just connecting it with the experience of arguing with the teacher. Maybe the answers in the homework are really wrong. So it's faulty logic. Let's proceed to the next one. A teenager argues against the family vacation plans, and the mother responds by saying, when you pay the bills, you can make these decisions. This one also shows faulty logic. Next one. After making it clear that he values employee loyalty, a supervisor asked for volunteers to help fellow supervisors move on the weekend. So this one is emotional appeal. The supervisor first talks about loyalty so that he or she can touch the emotions of the other supervisors, and afterwards, after uh, controlling their emotions, that's the time he mentioned about volunteering. So emotional appeal. Next one, exercising make you feel good. Well, actually this could be a fact, but it is unsupported. There's not enough evidence why exercising make you feel good based on the statement. Now, if there are reasons, certain um, explanations um, included, then maybe it is supported. But this time, there's not enough um, evidence for it. The last one, I know why you failed all your classes last semester. You don't study. Well, actually, there are other reasons why a person might get failing grades, right? It's not just because of not studying. Okay, maybe the person studied but didn't submit on time, something like that. So it's faulty logic. There is a fault in the reasoning behind why the student actually failed all the classes last semester. Okay, so let's proceed to learning task 3. This time we are supposed to watch a music video from a popular romantic tragic play, Romeo and Juliet. So people are part of the natural world and everything is connected. Now, if you have internet connection at home, you may access the link which is shown in our screen. And afterwards, the activity is to describe one scene from the video that presents each of the following: faulty logic, unsupported facts, and emotional appeal. So again, if you have time and you have internet connection, you may view it so that you can understand and feel the story, the message of the story more. Okay, let's proceed to the next one. Now, if you do not have internet connection, you can see the photo gallery in your leaf. So the photo gallery is lifted from the music video, and we can use it in order for us to understand and answer our learning task. So let me read each scenario. The first one, Romeo and Juliet saw each other for the first time at the feast in the Capulets' house and fell in love with each other. Scene 2. Romeo overheard Juliet at the balcony admitting her love for him. Then they decided to get married. Number 3. Friar Lawrence agreed to marry Romeo and Juliet secretly, hoping that if the two get married, the Montague and Capulet would end their family feud. Next one, Tybalt, the cousin of Juliet, confronted Romeo for his slip to the Capulet's face. Mercutio, Romeo's friend, defended him but was unfortunately killed by Tybalt. Romeo took revenge and killed Tybalt. The fifth one, Juliet felt upset for what Romeo did to Tybalt. Romeo tried to kill himself for the crime he committed. 6. The prince ordered Romeo to leave Verona and warned that he would be executed if he returns. Before he left, he spent the night with her wife, Juliet. Juliet didn't want to do the arranged marriage with Paris, so she decided to drink the drug given by Friar Lawrence that could put her to sleep and pretended to be dead on the wedding day. The messenger wasn't able to reach Romeo to tell Juliet's plan, so Romeo believed that Juliet was already dead. Being sad, he bought a poison, went to Juliet's home, and poisoned himself. 9. Juliet woke up from a deep sleep and saw Romeo's dead body. Disappointed and grieving, she stabbed herself with a dagger, which ended her life. And the last one, due to the death of Romeo and Juliet, the two families agreed that they should end their feud. Okay, so let's try to identify one scene or more from the video or the photo gallery that presents the different types of fallacies. Let's start with faulty logic. Now, the scene that shows faulty logic is when Romeo and Juliet saw each other for the first time in the feast and fell in love with each other right away. So there are several reasons why people fall in love with each other, and not everyone falls in love at first sight. So that makes it faulty logic. The next one, Juliet woke up from deep sleep and saw Romeo's dead body, and so she stabbed herself and ended her life as well. So what's faulty in this is that just because Juliet realized that Romeo is already dead, she also killed herself. Now, let's proceed to the unsupported fact. So, the unsupported fact is Friar Lawrence agreed to marry Romeo and Juliet secretly, hoping that if the two get married, the Montague and the Capulet would end their family's feud. But there's not enough evidence to support that this one, them secretly marrying, would end the family feud. So that makes it unsupported. And the last one is emotional appeal. Now, remember the scene where the Capulet and Montague already agreed to end the feud? It's because they're feeling emotional because of the death of the two who are Romeo and Juliet. Okay, now let's proceed to learning task 4. Now this time you will be creating your own fallacies. So you will be giving two examples for faulty logic, two examples for unsupported fact, and two examples for emotional appeal. So make sure that would be able to defend when I ask you next time why your statement is actually faulty logic or unsupported fact or emotional appeal. Okay, now let's proceed to the assimilation part. This will summarize everything that we discussed. So let's start with the fallacy. Of course, there are three types: faulty logic, unsupported facts, and emotional appeal. Now, for faulty logic, it is having fault or imperfect logic. There is imperfect reason or unsound judgment. Now, for unsupported facts, it's not sustained or maintained by a verifiable truth, and it's not supported by proven evidences. Now, for emotional appeal, it is designed to create an emotional response. It is used to arouse emotion of the audience to move them to act. Now, important reminder, it is important to recognize fallacy in an argument and critically determine the type used, such as faulty logic, unsupported facts, and emotional appeal, so that we can identify what to believe or not and state our reasons why we have come up with the decision made. So it's very important to identify fallacies in statements so that we know whether to believe, whether to agree, or whether not to believe or disagree. Okay, let's now go to the last part, which is assessment. Now, according to the instruction, identify the type of policy used in the given statements below. Write FL if it's faulty logic, UF if it is unsupported facts, and EA for emotional appeal. So, number one, everyone wants to get married someday. A good self-concept is important in attracting a husband or wife. Therefore, everyone should develop a good self-concept. Now, there are other reasons why people attract their husband or wife. It could be because of physical appearance, it could be because of confidence, it could be because of their intelligence. It's not just because of good self-concept. So therefore, this is a faulty logic. Let's proceed to the next. Students who take physics instead of earth science are studious and hardworking. Susie took physics instead of earth science. She should receive an academic distinction. Now, why is this faulty logic? It's because it doesn't mean that if a person takes physics, he or she is already studious and hardworking. So this is overgeneralizing. So that's why it's faulty logic. Next one, number three. I love that movie we saw last night starring Daniel Padilla. I'm going to rent all his movies and I'm sure I like all of them. It doesn't mean that if you like one movie of an actor or an actress, you will like all of his or her movies. There are other factors that makes movies wonderful or fabulous. It could be because of the story or the plot. It could be because of the setting where it happened. Now because of this is a faulty logic. Let's proceed to the next one. Number four, science show that Earth is billions of years old. Now, this could be a fact, right? However, it's not supported with evidence. So, it is an unsupported fact. The next one, there must be objective rights and wrongs in the universe. If not, how can you possibly say that torturing babies for fun could ever be right? Now, what's the policy here? Well, if you will take a look at the statement or the phrase torturing babies for fun, that is emotional appealing, right? Which makes it EA. Number six, as mayor and my top priority will be improving education. So my first act of office will be to cut funding for our public schools. Now, what's faulty in this? What is the fallacy? What type of fallacy is this? If you will take a look at the first line, the top priority of the mayor is to improve education. However, what will he do? He will cut the fund for public school. So there is something wrong with the statement, right? So if the mayor's priority is really improving education, then he shouldn't cut the fund for public school, which makes this faulty logic. Next, I know why you failed in English in previous quarters. You don't study. Now, This one, of course, there are other reasons why a person failed in exams or failed in subjects, and it's not just because of not studying. So therefore, this is faulty logic. And the last one, I met a little boy with cancer who lived just 20 miles from a power line who looked into my eyes and said in his weak voice, please do whatever you can so that other kids won't have to go through what I am going through. Now the line there, remember, this the kid said, so that they won't go through what I am going through. Plus, the little boy has cancer, which makes it, that's right, emotional appeal. Now, that's the end of our discussion for today. If you have any questions, just send me a message and I will gladly reply. Thank you so much.